Happy Monday. Sorry, I'm a little tardy. Microsoft decided it was doing a forced update. You know, always something in the land of live. So I hope you guys are having a good start to your week. 30 seconds. Perfect. Today is part 3 of, hang on, I've got myself down on the ground today. Today is part 3 of the installments of a combo ideas that I've been giving you. And I'm just going to share this into the main page here. Today, I am again incorporating red light therapy. And I've got my panel set up on the floor. If it's a little too bright, because it reflects pretty brightly off my white background, I may change that up. Here we go. Bear with me 2 seconds here, lovelies. So I'm going to go through some tips. Today is primarily massage. I mentioned in the event range of motion was required. So please ensure that it's never the getting down on the ground. It's always the getting back up off the ground that presents more of a challenge for some of you. So please don't take on anything that you're unready for. Join me now. I can't type and talk at the same time. My apologies, guys. You're looking at my lack of tan as we speak. Perfect. All right. So, again, just a recap for those of you that may have not seen me the last couple of weeks. I did a workout. I did a lymphatic session last week. I will post recaps in the links today for you guys so you can see the first and the second session. If you're ever looking for sessions, whether it's on Life Pro's social media pages on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, they're everywhere. Probably the best central place where everyone can publicly access would be YouTube. So when I go live today, I'm streaming live on the main VIP page with Life Pro. So if you would like to ask me questions or make comments towards the end of the routine here, please make sure that you're joining me through the event itself in the main group. I'm making sure my screen is big. I see I do have a few of you here. Sorry for the delay in getting started. I have lights all over, so I look like it's a Halloween episode. If you are joining me, please, someone make a comment. Let me know that you can hear and see me okay on the other end, and we're going to get started. So for today, I'm working on the Rumblex 4D Plus. Massage, direct massage versus massage. Massage is one of those words on a vibration plate that means something different to everyone, and it's really driven by what you are able to do. I have done some sessions on seated massage where range of motion is maybe lacking, how to get into the upper body. Today is all on the ground. So in a perfect world, you've done some kind of a warm-up, maybe a couple of light squats, some pelvic tilts, something that's kind of warmed up the body, not only to get the lymphatic moving, but to get down on the ground and up a little more effectively if you do struggle with that. So I'm going to turn and I'm going to do all of my coaching today, as I do in all of my sessions, in oscillating movement. Oscillating is the one movement that every Life Pro model has. It is one of 2 heavily researched vibration platform movement types. Oscillating mimics how we walk. Wouldn't it be nice if we just called it walking motion? It is a little bit different than walking. There's a lot more movements happening in the course of time, and there's a lot less impact. You are moving less. Even though you're moving faster, the amount of movement, that strike force of your foot hitting the ground is minimized dramatically in the environment that a vibration plate creates. So I'm not going to give you too many lectures today. Today I am working, before we get into the exercises and I blind myself, I'm going to combine red light therapy with this. Why would I want to do that? Red light therapy, it's like vibration plates. There's so many different benefits. You're going to have your own reasons for using it in the first place. The main reason I like to incorporate other therapies with my vibration plate time is I'm a homeschooling mom, and I have dogs and a life, and I'm busy answering questions for many of you online in my vibration plate work. So I like to do it because I need to reduce the amount of time that I spend doing my self-care. For some of you, maybe it's a severe symptom situation. Maybe you're in a lot of pain and you need relief now. Red light, there's a mental effect for me. I feel it grounds me, it soothes me. You know, I don't get a lot of sunshine this time of year, so that's one reason you know, that a lot of people, it just makes you feel good. But red light is known for boosting your mitochondria function. Your mitochondria is the powerhouse in each of your cells. It's your little battery, and if you can boost and help your mitochondria function more optimally, it's going to do its job better, whatever job it is that it's doing: recovering, running, jumping, vibration plating. What I'm using today is a panel. I'm using the large panel from Life Pro, and I'm going to just set it on the floor, casting towards me so I'm not blinding you. Ideally, you'd have this, you know, within a foot or two. I also have a mechanism on the roof where I can mount it if I'm casting it upon me. Sometimes it depends on the positions I'm doing on the plate as to where I set up the light. The larger light is what I call a set it and forget it, hands-free. When you're considering light therapies, really think about where you're going to be using it, how are you going to be incorporating these technologies, what are you able to physically manage if you're dealing with some acute issues and you know, you can't lift a soup can. This might be a bit of a challenge for you. And sometimes wearables, the belts, the gloves, the wraps that Life Pro has now come out with. Think about what you visualize yourself using it for, and for the chronic issues or the maintenance piece, what inspires you to use it regularly? If it's something you got to set up and maneuver every time, the convenience and the ease of using it kind of falls out of the equation. So think about that also when you're selecting your devices. Specs are important. They're a guideline, but it's much more important to select a device that you're going to find yourself, for your personal choice, using regularly. The only other accessories that I'm playing with today is a low-cost pool noodle that I've cut the width of my platform. I'm going to use that for some of the down on the ground massage. I also have all different kinds of yoga chunk mats, which they're hidden on camera, depending on what I'm doing. Sometimes you need padding, sometimes you don't. So if you did not get a mat with your plate, find yourself a nice thick yoga mat. You can probably find one in a garage sale or a secondhand store. A tip, if you want to cut a mat for your plate, this is a discontinued model, but it's easier for me to demonstrate. How I cut a mat to fit every machine I own perfectly is I lay the mat down on the ground. I take the machine face down and I leave it overnight, and it leaves a really nice impression on the mat, and then you can just trim it perfectly with a pair of scissors the next day. So that's a little trick. Okay. And the last accessory that I'm going to be working with today is the Aero Step. This is an aerobic stepping platform. It's got a balance option. There's different attachments that go on the bottom of this. I've got the main base feet on it. And what I'm going to be using the step for today with the massage is it's going to give me more real estate or more surface, the same height as the plate, to allow me to maneuver my body around in a lazier fashion. When I get into massage, I get lazy, but for you, maybe it's a mobility concern. The step is a nice way to get on the ground if you are struggling with mobility. You've all got your own way of getting up. That's a very common response in many of my groups. But this gives you a little bit more surface that's 6 inches off the ground to help you get up or to help you get down. Getting down all the way to the ground versus that last 6 inches is a very different experience. And for those of you that struggle with this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So my starting position is I'm going to sit, and we're going to start with our calves. Okay. So I'm going to line up the Aero Step in a T. So my platform's going this way. I've got the step lined up lengthways. If you bruise easily, if you're very frail, the step itself is fairly comfortable, but maybe you want to add a little cushion to it. So if you do find, maybe you're getting on your knees, and that is what I'm going to do here in a bit, and you might need a little padding. So have a couple mats handy once you're down on the ground, because I don't want you to have to get back up if it's a struggle. Okay? So the first exercise, and any of these massage exercises can totally be done on the floor. You do not need the step, but it is something, if you have a step or a surface, a footstool maybe, that can get you more like the platform is floor level. It's going to get your legs in the massage position more horizontal, whereas if you're on the ground, you're going a little bit more downhill. It's just something to experiment with and see what feels best for you. Okay? All right. So, how do I keep my arms in shape? Moving around plates and doing this kind of stuff all day. So we're going to be working in manual oscillating movement. If you're a seasoned user, speeds and levels, again, are a guideline. They have never all been researched, and they never will. Speeds determine how many times the plate is moving in a period. The other thing that's important, and I talk about this in my standing poses, is amplitude. So closer feet is less shake. Wider feet is more shake. And this is one of those unique but yet pain in the ass features of oscillating. It takes a little bit longer to kind of understand all the things that you can play with and manipulate. But once you do, you can really customize your experience for you in the moment. Maybe you've had an injury, maybe you're recovering from something, and you need to reduce things a bit. So speeds, programs, levels, the movement, how fast it's going, it is very much a personal thing. But I point out that the leg thing or the foot position thing and oscillating, because it's a variable feature that you control. In oscillating, it's you control the speed and the amount of movement. In lateral, you can only control the speed. In pulsation, you can only control the speed. So it takes a little bit more understanding. And typically, people go really wide because they think wider is more benefit. Or I read it somewhere in a group, Debbie. Well, wide is more movement. By most of you, it has a little picture that says that you're jogging. If you're somebody that can't jog because physically your body is not able to, wide might be a little too much even for massage. So come conservatively, more like that hip width apart, and add on for the calf position. And make sure that the heels are popped off the end of the plate. You don't want your feet rattling around. Speed-wise on my Rumblex, I've got 60 speeds. I prefer the mid to high end on everything, but especially a little higher on massage. So try the 40, 45 range if you've got a little more padding. If you're frail, don't touch the speed. Use that as a starting point, but bring the legs closer to the center to reduce the amount of movement. Add-on is a stretch. Reach for those toes. Maybe you get shin splints, or you're tight in the tops of the legs. Point the toes. Do some circles. The more movements you do, the more your fascia is loosening up, the more you're moving lymph flow. There's all kinds of reasons. One more add-on with the calf massage, and there's quite a few variations with any of these. There's never one way to do a position. I want you to, once you understand the speeds and how to control the intensity, experiment. What feels best for you in your situation? It's very much a unique experience. For those of you that know my story, I have a bad knee, and I was a big girl, and I had a doctor that told me I needed to lose a lot of weight and that I was just getting old and I needed a knee replacement. So no, I never did have the knee replacement, and I can't go to many doctors these days because I got an attitude. But I do sometimes find it gets stiff, it gets swollen. It's my little barometer. It tells me when the weather's going to change. So I take a pool noodle, and depending on the size of your body, maybe you're working with a child, maybe you're joining me from one of my special needs groups, a smaller pool noodle, or cutting this in half. Experiment with the tool. For me, the larger size pool noodle, I wedge it under my knee, and it just gets into that meaty part that doesn't actually touch the machine when you're doing the massage. Okay, so it just gets it a little bit deeper. It just helps transmit the stimulation. For me, it's this outer tendon. So I can tend to roll a little bit and get on it, get that pressure in there. Maybe I'm rolling inwards. You know, if you've got a bad knee and you're doing rolling exercises, all you're doing is adding in a stimulus that makes it more effective and gives you more benefits in less time. But your traditional rollers aren't so good on the plate. We're just mimicking it with a pool noodle. It's less dense and it's going to transmit the vibration versus fight it and bounce all over. So if you're working on knee strengthening exercises or you have bad knees, you know, maybe you're doing some little lifts, you know, lifting the legs is going to dig it in a little bit deeper. For those of you joining in my fat disorders group, that pad, that pocket on the back of the knee that drives you nuts, it's a great way to target it. Make sure you're doing your lip prep exercises first. Yes, I will drop a video. For those of you a little bit advanced, yes, there is such a thing called Advanced Massage 101. If you've got arm strength and you're doing on the floor, floor-based rolling exercises, you can roll on your vibration plate. Okay? You do need to have the ability to lift and hold your body up and maneuver it. So that might be a little bit advanced. And on those type of exercises, higher speed, short durations, you don't need a lot of time. Do short, more frequent reps on something like that versus 2 to 3 minutes of rolling. You get a lot of activity without realizing how much is going on. So let's move on now to the backs of the thighs. Depending on your height, depending on your tolerance, on this plate, I can get seated on it and I can get my hamstrings on it, but I'm too tall. My spine and my butt cheeks are kind of popped off the end here. So I've moved my step accordingly to make space for that. And on this one, if you're shorter, you might be able to do the glutes and the hams at the same time. If not, you might have to do it in 2 rounds. Nobody ever complains. So for this one, we've gotten into a meatier part of the body. There's a little bit more to absorb. So maybe you can take a wider foot position. Maybe it's too much shaken, okay? If you have spine issues, shoulder issues, neck issues, brain issues, please do not be afraid of the head shake. You're going to feel it more because the movement has less dampening before it gets to your head. It's not going all the way through the legs and the hips and all those pieces that are absorbing some of the movement. So if you are sensitive, just relax. The worst thing that ever happens with activity and on a vibration plate is our own body's insecurities and how it guards and protects. So if you're like this, you're going to be rigid and it's just going to shake you all over. Let your joints, tendons, muscles, fascia, let them do their job. Sit, relax, have a nice, good core. We're breathing. If it's too much head shake at this point, lean slightly forward. And 90% of the vibration is going to leave the head. Maybe you don't like it in the head, but you like it in the neck. You know, maybe we're doing something like this. Experiment. Do what feels good to you. This is just a stimulus to get more relief in a shorter time frame. For the stretching, if you like the stretching we were doing in the calf massage, you can do the same. Many of my families dealing with that spasticity where you can't get those legs straight at night. This is a great way, instead of mom or dad or your care provider spending 15 to 20 minutes with a massage gun or your hands personally trying to relieve the tension in the hams and in the Achilles and the calves and all the way down, okay? Oh, I have to show an Achilles variation for someone that messaged me prior to this. Any of these exercises, 1 to 2 minutes as a starting point. It would be so easy to sit here for 10 minutes. You know, once you've been using this for a month or two, do what you want. But when you're first starting out, like any activity, especially something lazy like this, you don't realize how much is going on in a short period. It just feels good. But if you're up peeing 6 or 7 times tonight, or if your legs are jello tomorrow, remember this lecture. This is for a smaller plate, but I cut out so I can hit the buttons. If you are thin or you have spine issues or you're afraid to sit on it, which is what I got to do next because I got to do it in 2 rounds. You're sitting on it, lengthways this way. Your spine is in the middle of the plate. It's at the pivot point. So you're going to feel more movement in your thighs, your hips, and your shoulders, frankly, than you actually do in your spine. If you lean over, you'll feel that you change that plane of movement. So if you're sitting with good posture, nice engaged core, and we're breathing, are there exercises that you're supposed to be doing for your spine and neck? Maybe things like this, doing some torso twists. Maybe there are stretches or things you're not supposed to be doing. Adhere to those things too, guys. If there's particular, maybe you're not supposed to be doing toe touches or things like that, same rules would apply on your vibration plate. Again, it's just an environment to give you more results. Okay, so the next one I want to get into is a favorite with my guys. Hoo-hoo, menopause, flashing. We're going to target the low back. And this is where, if you have upper body strength on this one, you do not need a step. But it's so much lazier if you do use a step. Oh, I've already rambled 10 minutes. And again, I've still got a mat on the plate. It's totally up to you whether you want to use one or not. I'm ramping this one up to the 45 mark. A lot of times I'm telling you one number, but I'm actually going a lot faster. Okay. Oh, see, I'm at 60 already. Woo, so scary. Okay. So to get the low back, you need to move yourself up. And once you're laying down, depending on the length of your torso, everybody's different. You're going to lay your shoulders and your upper back on the plate for support, or on the step. You really want to get into it. Pillows. If you do not have the step, you can be on your forearms. Now you can see my butt cheeks are on there, but I got a lot of room. I got a really long torso. So I'm going to shimmy down. Somebody was bugging me about my word shimmy the other day. Yeah, I'm shimmying. Is that a Canadian thing? So now it's more right in the small of that low back. My feet are on the plate just to get me into position, on the floor just to get me into position. Now we're going to lift those knees up. And by doing that, you get rid of that arch in the back and you're pressing that low back in there. Now, it may not be the mid back. Maybe your issue is off to the right a bit. Take those hips and lean them that way. Maybe they're off to the left a bit. Okay? I want you to be relaxed. For me, I like also putting my feet up. It feels like there's more mass going into my low back. I'm getting deeper. Gravity's pushing down over a bigger surface. Okay. With this one, if you're trying to do it with your feet on the ground, you'll feel it more in the butt cheeks and in the bum. It's better for constipation and those types of things, but it creates an arch. I can put my whole arm under here. So you want to bring those knees up at least to get rid of the arch, or feet up. Just an experiment, okay? So that's the low back. Oh, red light. We got to combine red light. Wait, I'm going to turn my panel on. I'm not looking at it. Everybody's going to bark at me. Oh, Debbie, you don't have your goggles on. Common sense, people. There's lots of studies out there that red light's improving vision. They're not wearing their sunglasses in session. I'm not suggesting stare at your red light panel. It's in my, what I call peripheral. And I'm, don't be a bug and look at it. So, but this is how I'm going to add the red light. I'm casting it upon my body. Imagine you're doing this while you're doing your massage sessions. I've got an old model on my butt. Just hit the buttons. All right. So the next one I want to show you is going to target the hip and the outer thigh. So from that low back position, we're going to sit up. If you are dealing with poor mobility, you've got poor circulation, anything heart-related issues, please just chill for a second, catch your breath. You got a lot of blood flow going on laterally and you sit up too quick, guess what? You get a little dizzy, you get a little vertigo. Nothing to do with the plate, it's the increased circulation. So we're going to turn over. We're going to put the hip in the middle of the plate. We're going to lay down like we're watching TV. And we're just going to bring the outer thigh up on the edge. Now, my hip is in the middle, So the primary movement I'm feeling is on the thigh. If you want to experiment with more movement, take your hip from the middle point and start moving backwards slightly. This is your point of contact, so once you move, you're going to move more. So let's go back, say, an inch or two. And you'll feel the intensity, the amount of movement, the amplitude has changed. So just don't overdo it. You know, it's not about fitting your legs on it. It's knowing where that hip point is contacting. Start in the middle. See how it feels. If you want more action, start moving back an inch or so. If you want to get a little bit deeper, right now I've kind of got my hip, the outer thigh, and the top of my tire. You can come up, and it digs a little bit more specifically into the hip. You can lean in, lean back. I am not using a mat, but I have good tolerance. Again, I caution if you do bruise easily, you've got conditions where you're just sensitive on the skin, mat up. Okay, every surface of the plate is different, so you're going to have to experiment and see what your tolerance and comfort level is. The point isn't to be black and blue when you're done. Okay, so the very last one I want to show you on the legs is also a two-part move. We're going to hit the tops of the quads, and we're going to hit from the belly button below. I get a lot of people, Debby, can I massage my tummy on the plate? I know that you already are. You want permission. You know, at the end of the day, in the history of these machines, a lot of the applications were direct body positions. The caution when you are, it's not going to hurt your tummy. Again, it's less impact than jogging. But if you've got hip bones that stick out, mat up, because there's not a lot of padding there. And if you do have a rough or a bumpy surface on your plate, you're going to want some cushioning for the hip bones. So that's my caution. So for this one, I'm going to turn the plate a bit so you can see me. We're kind of going to line up on the plate like a reverse cat-cow. So we're going to get on our knees, again, hip width apart. If you find the amount of movement is too much action, bring the knees slightly closer. Reduce the intensity. And this isn't oscillating movement or any combo where you're using oscillating movement. That's the key. So the first part of the position is almost like a cat-cow, and this like totally feels amazing. Join me next week for my back session. But to hit the tops of the thighs, we're going to move. Keep those kneecaps off. You can come up on the elbows. Now, just like when I was sitting on the platform and I had to do my thighs and my butt cheeks in two separate moves, well, I'm just doing the top surface now. So I've got to do my thighs, the top of my thighs and my tummy separately, depending on your height. You might be able to get both on the plate depending on your plate size. These are all things to think about when you're looking at a machine. I wouldn't be doing a big old massage session on something this size, as an example. So to hit the tummy, we just come a little bit further back. And again, if you don't have the plate, you can or the step, you can totally hold yourself up with your forearms. If you want to get a little bit deeper, get a bit of a stretch going at the same time, I love doing things like this. Maybe one at a time. Experiment. You are only limited by your imagination and your range of motion. Okay. The very last one I want to get into, because you know everything down here is feeling really groovy, but as women, right here is where we carry that tension. We carry that stress, that purse, the bra strap. Whether you are doing push-ups or not now, a push-up is one of those amazing positions, kind of like the squat, that can be done with many variations depending on what you're trying to accomplish. So for an upper body massage, and I've shown this seated on a plate, but I want to be very, very clear. Again, I'm looking forward. My red light is off. You know, I got wrinkles. I'm worried about other things too. So line the hands up directly under the shoulders, not wider. Okay, shoulder width apart. The other key thing with upper body is have the shoulders over the hands. If the head is over the hands, You're getting the most head shake. And as a woman, I described earlier, we guard, we protect, we're rigid, we just make it worse. So relax. If this is too much action, bring the hands a little bit closer. You're in control. And all we're going to do is we're just going to shift forward. We're going to make sure the shoulders are above the hands. We're going to relax the head. Just do some shoulder rolls. Or maybe we're doing some shoulder blade pinches, arching up like a cat. Maybe we're doing some cat cows. All the while, the stimulation is targeting this area without you physically having to do this, okay? Another way is a little bit more direct. You can come down on the elbows. I do not love doing planks on the machine. I'm not a fan. Many of you know that. But for a relaxation technique, I do enjoy this. So I'm feeling it really deeply in the tops of my shoulders, up the sides of my neck. Back here is more head shake. Keep those arms nice and straight. And don't fight it, just relax. My elbows are not like this. They're like this. That's the point of contact here. You're always in control over how much shake, okay? Oh, the last one I forgot to do in the flow. I'm just going to get back to this. The back of the knee part where you saw me doing that. I work with a lot of post-surgery on the Achilles. Many in my special needs group recover. And sometimes the spasticity, when I was showing you how to do the calf massage, I just wanted to highlight, if the Achilles is an area of concern, if it's an area you're trying to strengthen, there's scar tissue, nerve damage, new or old injury, it's a great way to get into. It's just another crevice where the when you're laying your calf on the machine, it's hard to kind of target the Achilles directly other than just hitting it with the edge of the plate. So I like to bring this into the equation. You can add a second pull noodle for support under the leg if that's comfortable for you. And if there's exercises that you're supposed to be doing in accordance with that. This one, support the leg. I wouldn't just let it hang freely, but support it, or like I say, put another pull noodle underneath it. You're going to have about 3 chunks of it if you cut one full length. But that's a really great way to target that. Anything in the ankle, the foot, there tends to be other issues by association. So whether it's plantar fasciitis, drop foot, those type of things. And the arch of the foot is another part, even when you're standing, that doesn't directly come in contact with the plate. So by adding a pull noodle, cutting one maybe lengthways, you could sit in a stool and do this. It's a good way to target the inner foot with that. So today was on the ground exercises. So primarily range of motion is required. But if you are limited and you're doing your exercises seated and progressing towards this, you could still incorporate your red light, get more bang for your buck. And if you're the type of person that's, you're just not the routine type of person, the diligence isn't there, sometimes combining the things you got to do into a dedicated time period or combining them is a great way just to make sure you're getting them done, if you want to look at it that way. So I hope that offered some tips. I'm looking around like a fool for my glasses here so I can see it. I'm going to come and we're going to talk about some questions now. So, I feel all loose and limber. It's a very beautifully warm day here. We've been in the deep freeze for quite some time. So I'm glad that things have warmed up here. And I go from shoveling snow to chipping ice and letting water melt. Where's my... There. I wanted to come down on my chair. So I see Nancy was here. Nancy, I can see and hear you. Where did you get the step stool? The step stool, if you're referring to the Aeroflex step, let me show it to you a little closer on camera. This is from Life Pro. These feet pop out and there's a round ball you can attach to it. There's a few different accessories. I'll put a link up for that today. There is a sale, 20% off with Life Pro. So thank you for giving me an excuse to mention that, Nancy. The yoga mats, many of your plates come with, not all do. So again, if you have a model that did not include a mat. There's simply just a really thick yoga mat. I think, something 10, 11 millimeters, if I had to give you the number. And I showed a tip at the beginning of the video to how to just make the perfect impression to cut a mat the same size as your plate if you do not have that. Because I'm a little old school and getting older, and the eyeballs aren't always as good as they are. I always cut out a little chunk for where the controls are so I can see my buttons fluidly. And I find when I'm doing my massage, a lot of the time I like to sometimes I speed it up a little bit, sometimes I slow it down. So I like having access to the buttons. If you are working on an older model and you're always turning the buttons on and off, the newer models have a lock button on the remote control, but things evolve over time and Life Pro listens. But if you do have one of the original models like I do, just placing a mat over the buttons when you're doing things like massage, and that is a good way to stop you from hitting the power button or speeding it up or changing the controls. Nancy has a Vibratech vibration that there's so many different brands out there. How it moves, there's two basic movement types, and lateral is kind of a newer one that some of the manufacturers, including Life Pro, do provide. As far as the positions I did today, they're pretty much universal on any vibration plate out there. And the reason I nag you about the settings and how you control your experience is it is a unique experience to everyone. What your goals are, what exercises are appropriate for your things you're trying to prove. I tend to play in the symptom wheelhouse. I deal with a lot of medical issues, and many of my members are using plates regularly, like 5, 6, 7 times a day, but in short, purposeful sessions, 2 to 3 minutes to boost energy, get the lymph moving, improve sensation, mental. So using it as a lifestyle tool when you're dealing with a chronic or acute issue is called self-care. You got to do all this extra work on top of the exercise or what have you. And many of us in my one group, it's Fascia February, and we've been talking lots about fascia and its effects on the body, and those aches and pains and stiffness that we get after being in positions or doing repetitive things for prolonged periods. The fascia gets stiff, it's not as pliable, and a vibration plate is just the ultimate tool to kind of awaken and shake that fascia up, and relieve those aches and pains. And if you feel like doing a squat or adding a push-up and pushing yourself a little bit into functional exercises, it doesn't take a whole big routine and a big commitment to start losing a few pounds, trimming up, becoming stronger, building those bones, whatever the goals are. You can just stand on a plate and go longer and longer and longer. But where are you going to go from there? What's your top speed in 15 minutes? It kind of defeats the purpose of this amazing lifestyle hack that reduces the amount of time you have to spend doing this stuff. So if you are dealing with chronic issues and struggle with doing traditional positions, there's always a way to modify. Today was a session I enjoyed doing as a warm-up. I like doing it as a recovery, maybe after I've done other activities. If you're having an off day and it's, maybe you've done something in the gym and you don't really want to work out, this is a great way to boost recovery and, keep that lymph going, if that's a concern for you. And you don't have to do all of the exercises. It's a fairly long routine if you did a minute or two on everything that I did today, but I hope there was a couple of exercises that you can add to your arsenal. So I've got 3 or 4 go-tos that I always tend to do. And, once in a while, I'll do the entire gamut. And what's funny, even when you're just doing a new position for a while, sometimes I get itchiness in different areas because I'm not doing that position directly on the machine. And sometimes it's a good way to just, kickstart the body and mix things up as well, just by doing some passive work on your plate. And today I incorporated red light with it. Nothing saying you couldn't add your massage gun. Maybe you've got other red light therapies or infrared therapies that you could use before or after. There's all kinds of ways to ramp up the benefits and the results. And a lot of times if you're doing a session or you're planning for it, it's easier to combine and add something on for a little bit before or after, because you're kind of already in the mode, if you will. Any caution in Hashimoto's? And Nancy is 3/4 stage 3-4 lipedema. Both of you need to be in my groups. probably the number one reason anyone and I hate to use the word fat disorders. I got poo-pooed this weekend for using that word, but not everyone understands that a fat disorder is actually a loose connective tissue disorder, let alone how to find information about that on the internet. So, when you have conditions like lipedema, lymphedema, Hashimoto's, a lot of people in my group, Karen, have that as well in addition to the Lyme or the lymphedema. So most of them are dealing with more than one thing. And a plate is the one common thing that makes moving lymph super easy. If you're dealing with a really late, set on stage of symptoms later in a disease where you're just in chronic pain, or activity, walking to the fridge is a battle. Forget going to the swimming pool or something. A vibration plate can move you when you lack the ability to move. Red light is another great tool, infrared as well. Red light more is that surface and just below the skin surface to activate those lymphatic vessels, whereas the infrared is going to go a little deeper, penetrate more into the muscles, the fascia, those deeper vessels of the lymphatic system. And when we move, lymph moves. So by combining them, you're ramping up results. If you are dealing, and I'm going to say this for sure, for Karen and Nancy, if you are dealing with sluggish lymph, it's a good idea to prep. There's all kinds of videos out there. We did one on our group just on 6 pathways. I did this last week. But if your lymphatic system or your immune system is struggling in processing and doing its job, and you go run on a treadmill or jump, if you have a vast increase in your circulation and lymphatic system, you want to make sure your body's got the capacity to dissipate and work that through. So be cautious. I know it feels really good when you're starting with a lot of these therapies, and when you're combining them, especially if you're chronic pain, you get some relief off some light and some shaky machine. You're going to want to be on it all day, but give your body time as you would a medication or any other medical treatment. Let's say, give it a month, 3 weeks to a month for your body to kind of become assimilated, get used to this. There's some newbie stuff that you go through with either of them. And once your body kind of goes, oh, I know what this is, then get some structure and routine, and, just sort of experiment with them to see, what your tolerance are, kind of settings and positions you might like, when you feel better using the red light. And a lot of times it's just working out the mechanics of your calendar and what complements that best as well. Nancy says, I'm not offended like that by that. I think you know what I mean, but there are people out there, 1 in 9, that are affected with a condition called lipedema. I always do a plug when I can, but very few know about it. And many of them are using vibration plates. And I did a poll last week, 75% for symptom management. Fitness is great. Fitness is doing things like squats and push-ups and toning our muscles. Bone density is bearing your weight. So a lot of you are getting awesome bone density results, but maybe the weight or the tone isn't coming. That's specific positions. Instead of just standing there, go to squats. And if you start doing more squats, you can start getting to doing more things like we did today. Squats really help boost that range of motion and get you down on the ground so you can take advantage of some of this direct stuff. Nancy has tree trunk legs and never gets offended by others that do. You know what? You're a walking billboard. It's hard to have conversations nowadays. We've been doing it online too much. And, I'll walk up to somebody at the post office and I'll admit I'll risk that being offended. But if you had something that your doctor or your country didn't even recognize, I'm in Canada, and somebody knew about it and had a pretty good clue that you might have it, I'm not here to diagnose or treat, but there's a lot of information online and a lot of very qualified professionals that I support that have a real big clue, and the research is there. So I want to thank Life Pro for giving me the opportunity to ramble weekly and natter at you about some of these informations and conditions. And I really think we're getting to that time of year where it's almost spring for us. The melting is happening for some of you. Things are starting to bloom, and we tend to do other activities. We get outdoors, and maybe we're not as mindful about the self-care or the stuff that got us feeling better in the first place. So don't abandon things once you start moving and feeling better. If this has offered you some relief today, like I say, pluck 1 or 2 and add them to your existing routine. Maybe there's something you're doing after your other activities. For my therapists, My care providers out there, using a vibration plate is a really amazing way for you to offer the benefits of massage without having to do all the work manually. So prep with a vibration plate. Maybe you're doing a couple of standing tilts and hitting the calves because that's what you're going to be working on today. My chiro has said to me when I go for my adjustments, you didn't do your plate before you came. Like it makes his job harder if I haven't getting me adjusted. So use it as a pre-treatment, a post-treatment, and you're getting added length, circulation as an added bonus, better balance. There's some what I call forever benefits that are just kind of naturally occurring because of the oscillating movement. They're just an added bonus regardless of what you're doing on the plate. You're welcome, Karen. Thank you for joining me. I have the Bio Remedy used it once. It might be big and clunky. I hope I gave you some new ideas today. I got boards on the wall. I got all kinds of different things. But my favorite way to use it is to just stand it up, lean it up against a bookshelf that I sit by. And then I do one side. And then I like it on my legs. I've got brutal varicose veins. I've had 2 children. I don't care. They don't hurt. They don't get worse if I stick with my vibe. So I like to use that for the warmth, the healing. I do have, busy hands and I talk too much. So sometimes if the wearables I'm not as mindful of unless I'm in relax mode on the couch. I really enjoy using the panel with my workout. Just find yourself a little station to set up. And, whether you have a vibration plate or not, maybe you're a treadmill person, or maybe you just do some floor-based exercises. Maybe you just do some stretches. The panels are a great way to combine other things you're doing just by having them cast upon you. And maybe it's the color, maybe it's the mental. I feel like I'm in the Bahamas, and it just changes the experience. So let me know what you think about that. I will get the last 2 sessions dropped here. And experiment. You are only limited by your imagination, your range of motion. I hope you guys enjoyed the massage moves today. Let me know how you make out with them. Don't work too hard.